Hi, everybody, and welcome to Not for Normies, the best tournament that you will see for a little bit going on until the World Cup. Tonight, we have three great matches for you, all best of three matches. And first, we'll see the two teams of Team LiViD and We Showed Up. Today, I'm with I Hold Shift and Vowels, who will be your casters for this first match. How are you two tonight?
I'm doing great
I'm really
personally. I was saying, Vols, you might be getting a little sleepy over there. What time is it for you?
It is 1 in the morning here.
Whoa.
It's the unfortunate side effects of casting from Manchester here in the wonderful rainy UK. But I've had more than enough coffee to keep me going. Don't worry.
It's what to say we must be Manchester United up in this cast, right? Am I right?
Off to a great start.
Yes. We definitely have a fun night. Looking forward to this next match in particular. So I Hold Shift. Could you tell me a little bit about what We Showed Up has in store for us tonight? Are there any players that you want to highlight?
I'm really interested in these matchups just in general because it's going to be, looked at as a proving ground for a lot of these players. Most specifically, as we had a chance to kind of get to know the teams from the background side of things, I'm really interested to take a look at this Ultraviolet who's playing the flex support. He's 14 years old. Supposedly, that's what they tell us at least. So this kid could potentially be a prodigy. He's 45-26 SR peak. I'm excited to see what the youth of the nation has to bring to us. But beyond that, I think the support side of things is obviously when you look at some of the tier 3, more of these, open style competitors, you're looking at like positioning, how well can they best effectively utilize line of sights, things like that. So I'm interested to see kind of how this back line plays for the side if We Showed Up and how the front line can kind of mix and match those line of sight breaks or potentially not breaking those line of sights while they try to get some of things, especially on these first control maps that we're going to see first and foremost.
14 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a mess then, Vowels. I imagine you were probably doing a little bit better than me at that age. But what can Team LiViD do to combat that great support?
I have tried my best to repress every single memory of 14-year-old Vals. Let's not go revisit it. But going back to the flex support role, the person who sticks out to me most of Team LiViD is this guy, Bojobs. I've seen him recently playing for Koenigsegg in EU Open Division. Playing obviously across the pond, it's a lot of ping. Even then, he stood out as a really, really good Zenyatta and Ana player. So I'm excited to see how we can do on Team LiViD on a normal amount of ping against the really hyped Ultraviolet. Outside of that, I also want to give a shout out to Dunks on the main tank role. I feel like he's going to be a huge anchor for Team LiViD, and I'm excited to see how well they can play together.
So both of these teams really do rely a lot on their supports, and their preferred tanks are that Winston and that D.Va, but there is versatility available from each team. However, when I looked at these team sheets, the biggest difference I noticed was that one team runs Mercy Zen, the other runs Zen Lucio. I Hold Shift. Which team would you give the edge to in that support battle?
I think that when you take a look at these preferred heroes, they are, they're their first preferred hero. If you start to see combinations of that, a Mercy Zenyatta versus a Lucio Zenyatta, it really kind of comes down to who can heal up these diving frontliners. Like you mentioned, if they're both going to be running D.Va Winston primarily, you'd have to think that getting some other support up front will help out. Mercy, yes, she can dash in between different, obviously different heroes, but when you have a Lucio that can help enable a little bit further with that speed boost, that healing aura that can really get boosted up as well, I think that's going to come in pretty clutch when you look at when you properly trigger or maybe not properly trigger that amp it up. And if you're using speed versus healing, I think it's going to be really crucial in the decision making that these supports make will have a very big influence on these team fights.
And so much is going to depend on the map pool for tonight.
Sure.
Tonight, we will be headed over first to Dorado, then to Hanamura, and lastly to one of my new favorite maps, Busan. Vowels, what are you looking forward to on Dorado specifically as we head to that map first?
Now, Dorado, we see a lot of different compositions run on different stages of the map. On first point, particularly on defense, we see a lot of Arista-based compositions play around the high ground, then the choke as you move into the parade area. Moving on to streets, you get dive as teams trying to contest the high ground. And then for the final point, it's playing around the corners, trying to abuse the low ground sightlines, and we see a lot more Ryan Zaya or even Triple tank-based compositions. So to be really good at Dorado, you need to be able to run all three variations of your main tank line effectively. So I think the team with the most flexibility across those is going to be winning out on this map.
So as we go into our first map soon, right now, Looking at these two teams, I hold shift. I'm going to put you on the spot. Who are you predicting to take this best of 3?
You know, I gotta sit here and have faith that with how confident we showed up was with Ultraviolet, the 14-year-old prodigy, I have to find some kind of this little bit of this burning inside that, yeah, he might be the underdog because he's so young, but my goodness, does like the prepubescent me want to see a 14-year-old want to do really well on the competitive side of Overwatch. So I got to give it that we showed up just from the nostalgia standpoint.
Vowels, do you agree with I hold shift here?
Now, I'm going to take it back to this flex support matchup. And as exciting as Ultraviolet might be as a prospect, he is still young. I'm going to take experience over use here. I'm going to look to Bojobs, the Open Division veteran who I've seen in EU, and some of these older players across the board on Team LiViD. I feel like they're going to edge out the series.
Well, for me, it's a little too close to tell. I kind of want to be Switzerland between you two, but right now, first, we will be heading over to Mexico as we go to Dorado for our very first map. Have fun, guys.
Well, she wants to be Switzerland. I'm guessing you're going to be the United Kingdom, which means you're the Allies. Does that mean that have to be the Axis? I don't want to be Germany. Can I be Italy? Can I be like Mussolini? Can I just be the fascist?
Shift. We're all friends here. We don't need to be drawing these battle lines between us. What matters is that we're here to watch some great Overwatch. We don't need to be drawing up battle lines, going to war with factions. I'm just happy to see great Overwatch.
I'm in the same boat, we're having fun. But I gotta pick your brain just a little bit here, Vals, because again, this is after Overwatch Season 3 Open Division. The trials obviously going on through contenders, and we've been seeing a lot of things with the World Cup as well. So when you're watching the more elevated levels of Overwatch competitively, what are you looking at for these more younger teams are they trying to emulate something? Are they trying to mimic something? What is going to be the standout things that we're going to want to be looking for between these teams and your possible World Cup teams?
It depends. I feel like World Cup teams probably have a little bit more practice time. They've got a little bit more experience than we see on these lower level tier 3 teams. But that said, these kind of competitions, it's always exciting because there's a little bit more room for creativity. It's not like the World Cup or the Overwatch League Grand Finals where everything's on the line and you have to go what's true. You've got a little bit more room to change things up, come up with something wacky and off the wall, and just have fun with it. And that's what I'm hoping to see from these teams.
All right, then. Well, and we have a little bit of a mix-up as well. Looks like we're going to be doing a hybrid map first and foremost, so we will be over on Kings Row. Does any of this feel nostalgic for you when you look around Kings Row? Does this scream London and the United Kingdom to you, Vals?
Unfortunately, I've only been to London once. I was quite young at the time. I spent most of my life around like the Midlands and the north of the UK, never quite gone that far south. So it's only what I've heard legends of, but I suppose it lives up to the caricature.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I don't have any basis. I've never been to the United Kingdom, so I can't help you out there. But to start things off, it will be in the blue. We showed up. They'll be defending first and foremost. And as we're taking a look at it, it's going to be a GOATS comp first and foremost with using the Lucio, Ana, and the Brigida with your traditional 3 frontliners. What are the biggest things we're looking at as far as gameplay or game changers from the defense when we look at the setup?
I think it's all going to be about what kind of playstyle we're going to see from the defense. There's 2 effective flavors of these triple tank compositions. Are they going to be pocketing the Reinhardt and trying to engage off the back of that? Or are they going to be trying to build up as much Xayah charge as possible and use that to win out fights? Seeing the kind of matchup between these triple tank compositions is going to be really interesting.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a McCree going out for Team LiViD, and a very good biotic grenade to start things off, but not able to find too much at the back end of it. They do find Bo. Taking him out will mean obviously no Zenyatta, so numbers advantage favoring the defenders so far. Bipbop's shield getting very low though and wants to find that Reinhardt banner. Tyler's going to help out by shield bashing right through, but will be caught out of position. So now with the respawn coming back for the Zenyatta, it's actually Team LiViD with the numbers advantage. The defense very wisely tactically retreating. They're going to have to do a little bit of a soft reset through the Alderworth Hotel and come back and recontest. They need to find a pick very big, and Bipbop will be boosted first and foremost, and a Fire Strike will connect, and now an Earth Shatter as well. A very good start to the team fight using 2 ultimates for the side of We Showed Up.
And there you go. You want to talk about favoring the Rhine versus favoring the Xayah? We know We Showed Up are absolutely going to be favoring the Reinhardt. They're all playing around enabling Bitbop's aggressive Reinhardt plays, and it's well earned to get the Nano Boost and the Earth Shadow right off the bat. It does put the ultimate advantage in the favor of the offense now. Look for Rocket to pop the rally early and then Saturn to try and find zoning value out of this Deadeye.
we're about to have two Graviton Surges as well. And first and foremost, the Deadeye comes out, and now, ooh, Graviton Surges on Graviton Surges with the Biotic Grenade from the side of We Showed Up does more work, and with that, Dipbop will slice through too. The Earthshatter also being farmed up once again. He'll charge through Bo, and that'll be nearly a full team cleanup as soon as Salty goes, and he'll be staggered away. Another team win for the defense.
So, Team LiViD do engage early, try and get some value out of the Deadeye, but instead of zoning away from it, We Showed Up get aggressive. Tyler comes out with the Brigade to Shield Bash to completely cancel out the ultimate, pays from it with his life, but then off the back of a nice Graviton Surge, We Showed Up turn around the fight. There's not too many ultimates on the side of each team, but there's a lot of support ultimates here for Team LiViD now.
And that's what I was about to say, is that we do have all these support ultimates coming through, starting things off with Rockers. The Earthshatter tries to pop a dunk, actually gets it negated before you can throw it all the way out. So now with the support ultimates being traded from both sides, you're looking at the side of We Showed Up to potentially put this one through, but Bo holding on to the Transcendence will help the offense try to move through, but a huge Biotic Grenade actually keeps Dunks from getting shielded. Fortunately, Zarya had a bubble to throw onto him. It's still 6 versus 6. Now the Deadeye from the back line. Saturn looking to pull the trigger, but there are just too many shields. Able to find Buck as the personal just goes away. Now with the 6-on-5, Dunks! He'll just go right up in the air and looks like Michael Jordan dunking all over the team with that Earthshatter, and a team wipe at the very last second to get that third point. Point A going the way of LiViD.
And it's great team play all across the board from Team LiViD. Towards the end of that fight, they managed to give Saturn plenty of space to pop the Deadeye. He's able to find Buck. It's only a single pick, but from there they can just unwrap this triple tank, triple support composition. And it's a great combo as well. Shield Bash followed up by the Earthshatter completely negates any hope Spitbot had of blocking it. There's a couple of support modes coming online for the defense now. They've got the Earthshatter and the Graviton Surge, so they can try and shut down on this offense early.
Oh, but starting things off, it's actually Salty throwing his Graviton Surge up, and immediately afterwards, it's a big one pulled with the Biotic Grenade from the side of We Showed Up. They'll take down 4, and that'll be enough for them to keep moving on forward with some aggression of their own, but the supports have already backed up into spawn.
And I do definitely want to give a shout out to Ultraviolet. Been hailed as this flex support prodigy for good reason. So far, he's putting in a really great showing, good positioning on it, and getting so much value out of these biotic nates as well. Single-handedly turned around several fights in favor of We Showed Up so far.
And now, for We Showed Up, they're going to hit the armor and the speed from Tyler, now boosting as well, using 2 ultimates, and now the speed amp coming forward as well from Morbid, trying to push everybody back, but they only find Saturn, and will they find Dunks as well, so the 2 frontliners being gone again. Oh my goodness, this is looking like just swells in the ocean with all of this blue moving forward, coming back, moving forward, coming back. They're looking really aggressive so far.
Yeah, and with this aggressive hold, Buck is able to keep so much consistent energy, never dipping down, giving a constant advantage over Saturn, his counterpart, who has moved off from Mercury onto Zarya. There's a lot of support elements online for both teams now. Bip-Hop needs to come up huge for the Earthshatter though.
No, the Graviton Surge gets soaked up by the D.Va Defense Matrix. Bowen, just a little bit of desperation, is going to hit the Transcendence. They have numbers, does Team LiViD, and they're able to find Bip-Bop right after the Earthshatter came through. Dunks also getting a lot of damage done. They'll clean this one up and finally get this payload moving through these streets.
Yep, and Bip-Bop did find a lot of value out of the Earthshatter, secured a 4-man Earthshatter while Dunk's back was turned, but there was ultimately no follow-up. Team LiViD turned around the team fight eventually. Bo has moved off the Zenyatta now onto the Ana, so it's mirror compositions across the board, but there's a slight ultimate advantage again in favor of the defense. They've got the sound barrier to engage early in this fight, and they can try and make space with Mark Killer's self-destruct, or decide to save it for Buck's Graviton Surge. There's a lot of tools available here.
But Val's Dunks is so close to an Earthshatter, and the self-destruct finds 3 if you include the D-Mac. Buck, one of the last ones left. He's able to get the full charge, but we'll see that fall away as he slips down into the Omnic factory below, and a team kill as checkpoint B comes through without having to use much ultimates at all.
Yeah, after stalling a little early, Team LiViD have found their rhythm. Managed to win a decisive team fight off the back of just 1 ultimate. You can't argue with that. Salty's already 30% to win over self-destruct, so starting to get some kind of value. And there's a lot of ultimates online for both sides. It's going to be a fireworks display this here.
We do have Dunks with the Earthshatter, so keep an eye on that red Reinhardt. Graviton Surge is being thrown through. Dunks turning around to block the self-destruct. A huge purple coming out from Bo, and now the Earthshatter, it finds 3 stuns. And Dunks, I swear he's got number 23 in the back of his jersey, because he's looking like Michael Jordan dunking all over the side of We Showed Up, and a team wipe comes out again.
And Bo has taken a page out of Ultraviolet's book. There manages to completely turn around the fight off the back of a nice biotic nade to follow up into Graviton. We Showed Up didn't stand a chance.
No, they did not. And now the sound barrier used immediately after the biotic comes out, and not able to fully touch was the side of We Showed Up. So sneaking that one through comes Team LiViD. And my goodness, Val's, this frontline gameplay has been spectacular so far.
Yeah, despite an early showing looking really good for We Showed Up, they started to lose some momentum, got a couple of fights going against them, and from there it was all Team LiViD show, able to completely stormball through the majority of the streets and then through the foundry as well. And We Showed Up eventually just didn't show up on the point. It's a pretty easy cap in the middle of a team fight. You can't afford to give away those kind of mistakes at the end of these maps.
And, you know, I got to hit one more topic because, again, we're looking at these teams and kind of seeing what are the differences between these teams versus your tier 2, tier 1 players and squads out there. The 3-3 GOATs was used pretty much exclusively from We Showed Up, and they were not able to sustain as well as other comps like this usually fashion. So where are the weak points for We Showed Up so far? Is it the front line? Is it the back line?
I feel like it's more of an adjustment on behalf of Team LiViD. Ultraviolet in particular was getting a lot of value early on from his Ana positioning, being able to follow up on biotic nades, and then capitalizing off the back of those in these team fights. It was a nice change up from Team LiViD when they moved on to the 3-3 composition in particular off the McCree. Just changed up the positioning, played a bit more tighter as a team, denied some of the sightlines for Ultraviolet to land these biotic nades. And that meant all the momentum went over in favor of Team LiViD, particularly Bo's Ana, and pretty decisive.
And it's interesting because, you know, again, when you look at these 3-3 comps, it can be really hard, especially in the first person view, to kind of break down, you know, who is being successful, who is not being successful. And, you know, for me, as I'm taking a look at it, the support gameplay has been absolutely phenomenal as far as the trigger of the ultimates from the side of Team LiViD. And now, as we move forward, it'll still be the same 3-3 from the side of We Showed Up, as Saturn will still be rocking the McCree on this first point. Look for some vulnerabilities in the back line, as that's exactly what's happening. We Showed Up goes right on to Bo, who was caught off guard from that push through the hotel, but still able to trade out into support for support. So 5-on-5 action. Ultraviolet keeps the team healthy with the biotic grenade, but Bipop looking to slap on through. He's just not finding the proper range. Rockers now by themselves on the point as they find Saturn in the back line. Another good biotic grenade from Ultraviolet comes through to keep the healing away. And with those staggered picks, it looks like We Showed Up will have the early advantage on checkpoint A.
Yeah, in this dive defense on the first point compared with the McCree Pepita, they're trying to exploit some weaknesses in GOATs. They're hoping that We Showed Up play much more split up than they were, try and abuse getting into the back line if the tanks get a little too aggressive, but instead We Showed Up plays a nice cohesive unit. Team Liquid instead blow up. They capitalize by finding an early pick on the Bo, and they just turn the team fight around off the back of that.
Now, you got to be careful with your Team LiViD. You're going into this fight after losing so quickly that the ultimate charges are very vastly in favor of We Showed Up, and they're playing right in front of the arch, which could be detrimental. There is a boost available for Ultraviolet. I'm looking for that Graviton Surge with the potential of the Earth Shatter, which are very, very close. There are no defensive ultimates for Team LiViD, so We Showed Up looking to get aggressive. Bipop first and foremost. They'll be boosted with a personal shield that will slap right through Rocker, no problem. Up and over come both the frontliners, but immediately slept with Dunks. Ultraviolet able to keep some staggered gameplay away from these frontliners, allowing the rest of the team to clean up, and that's exactly what happens. We Showed Up with another team win without having to use anything besides the nano boost.
Yeah, and I do like what Team LiViD are going for. They're trying to exploit some potential weakness for We Hold Shift, getting onto this backline, but by the time they are actually diving into the backline, they've already lost 2 players both times. They can't win out the 4v6. Ultraviolet's still able to get too much value enabling Bitbox to play aggressively. Either you take more initiative and try and secure kills before your own backline falls, or you just switch off and go for the mirror 3-3 here.
Well, Saturn will look for a very ambitious Deadeye from around the corner. Everyone will back up and he'll find 0 value. Although the Graviton Surge gets sucked up by Salty and then able to come back through the self-destruct with Spark Killer. So now tied the advantage in favor of We Showed Up, who start to hit the gas pedal as they get themselves a sound barrier plus a rally. That monkey is doing his best to hit a left-right combo, but he's not quite looking like Khabib did the other day at UFC, and he'll be taken down very quickly, and that'll be enough for checkpoint B to be taken care of.
It looked like there was an early opportunity for Team LiViD there off the back of a really nice self-destruct, but it was immediately answered by Mark Killer's own 2K. And then Tyler, the creator of space on this Brigitte, just swings forward, uses the Inspire to keep his team alive, and they just win the team fight off that. Moving into Foundry now with a 5-minute time bank, we're finally going to see Team LiViD moving on to a mirror composition.
But Team LiViD just do not have any ultimates available besides this rally, which they will use to try to move forward and look for a pick, and it is able to find one under the Reinhardt, and that is going to be Dunks. will come back and try to make this a little bit more of an aggressive defense, having the numbers advantage, but very wisely, as soon as BitBop fell down, we showed up, back up right into spawn, wait for the 6-on-6, and then come back with the potential Earthshatter play.
And finally, Team LiViD win a team fight off the back of what was winning them team fights all the time on offense. Bo sat off to the side, lands a huge biotic nade, and it's a pretty decisive fight.
A lot of vying for position. The Earthshatter gets thrown out, but only finds Salty, which will have resulted in the DMAC, but it did keep one of those big bodies down, so it allowed Buck to get in the back line and get that confirmed the big Zarya damage glowing in full charge. Able to find a pretty easy team wipe there. Now have ultimates available for this final push.
Great combo from We Showed Up, and if you want to play an aggressive triple tank triple support team, you need to have those combos going. The Shield Bash comes in from Tyler, knocks Dunk flying, and then you immediately follow up with the Earthshatter, and you win a team fight only investing one ultimate.
Well, now boosted is BitBop, but looking for Earthshatter is Dunks, and he finds all the supports plus the Zarya. Combine that with the self-destruct. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, from Salty, able to find a huge 3K, and now moving forward, it's just the cleanup. Tyler will be taken down. Ultraviolet will live to tell the tale. My goodness, what a play.
Poco, eat your heart out. That is how you win a team fight off the back of a self-destruct. And it completely depletes the economy of We Hold Shift as well. So, We Showed Up. They've got an Earthshatter here, but that's going to be it.
Oh, a nice Graviton surge from Saturn, just adding a little bit of salt to the wounds right now. We Showed Up. They'll get another full team wipe coming on the back end, but they use a lot there, Vals. And while we have some time, tell me more about these triggers on fighting dry without using ultimates versus using them in these tier 3 games.
Well, fighting dry isn't something we're particularly seeing either team going. Either that, when they know they're really depleted on autonomy, they know the defense is going to have the advantage. BitBop still tries to go for the hero play with an Earthshatter, doesn't find anything, and that means they've only got the sound barrier to engage in this fight with when they could have had a much more decisive advantage.
Well, the sound barrier being held right now. Rocker will say, let's go. Hits the rally here. Biotic Grenade will hit a couple of the frontliners, and the sound barrier will be triggered for both sides. Still, Team LiViD not going away just yet. Want to keep poking at this. And look at this. Antol comes through looking for a sound wave, but not able to find it. And another Earthshatter from Dunk. He continues to impress with those triggers as another Biotic Grenade comes out in support of it. And that will lead to another wipe, or at least most of a wipe as they'll clean up the last few on the defense.
And Dunks is now lapping BitBop in terms of how fast he can ramp up these Earthshatters. The rest of Team LiViD is playing so well to just enable Dunks to go huge on this Reinhardt. It's a nice alteration in playstyle from the Zarya heavy composition we saw earlier. And BitBop's finally got an Earthshatter, but Dunks is already halfway to his own again.
What their ultimates coming out already. Oh, BitBop hits the Earthshatter right into the shield. Dunks very wisely able to pull a 180 and blocks the self-destruct. So now turning is Team LiViD with this big Graviton surge onto 3 different players. That'll be enough to clean up most. BitBop is doing what he can to keep his shield up in front of this. Ooh, a nice anti-nade coming out, which will actually delay the consistent aggression that we see at the end of these team fights, but still, the defense is successful.
And 3 minutes later,
yeah.
We Showed Up finally have an ultimate advantage here. They're going to have the nano boost by the end of this fight as well, but they can engage with a rally, and then Buck can try and find value of the Graviton surge as well. But he needs to stay away from Salty. Can't afford to have this eaten again.
Tyler, they want to go, but again, a Graviton surge gets sucked up by the Diva. That's 3 times now, and We Showed Up. Have to try to find a way to make it work without that ultimate. It looks like they're able to do so as they were able to find Mark Killer into the backline, able to find a couple of those supports, and finally a team wipe comes out, but oh, it was almost catastrophic. Oh my goodness, Vals, they still have the ability to push here.
So there's a major difference here I want to point out between We Showed Up and Team LiViD. Team LiViD know it's a lost fight. They don't invest any ultimates there. They can now engage with the rally, self-destruct, and the Earthshatter here. That's not the same level of this thing we saw from We Showed Up.
Oh, and looking for the charge combo with the self-destruct. Dunks actually gets blocked this time by BitBop, giving him a taste of his own medicine. And with the sound barrier coming through, it'll likely keep them alive nicely through the rest of this Graviton surge channel, but the Biotic Grenade does come out from Bo, able to keep them purpled up, and no healing comes through after the end of the Graviton surge, which allows Team LiViD to again push their advantage and find themselves a team win. There's only 8 seconds left. You gotta look at Mark Killer here on the defense. He's the only one who's gonna get a chance to touch this. 2 seconds left. Will be there, but falling low. Has to force out the self-destruct and take it down. Overtime triggered. The Buck is here, but the numbers still favoring the defenders as well, as that very crucial respawn proximity boosted his Dunks, and he finds a charge. on the Bitbomb, allowing the self-destruct to find 2. The synergy played by this Reinhardt Dunks has been absolutely impeccable. Whoa, the defense holds, and the first map goes to Team LiViD.
And you couldn't tell that one of these teams has been together a while. The other team's only been together for 3 weeks. Despite only being here for a couple of weeks, Team LiViD are playing like a really cohesive unit. They know how each other plays, they know how to be disciplined and not invest any ultimates into lost fights. And it is that discipline that's the decisive factor here. It's a nice clutch free trade from Salty to turn that fight around, and just having so much more impact out of your ultimates, not having to stack them, not throwing away ultimates into lost fights. We showed up might be the mechanically better team and have won fights off the back of that. But it's the team play for Team LiViD that's the real factor here.
It's, for me, it's a lot of the synergy between the double fronts right now. Seeing Dunks move in and charging when he doesn't have the Earth Shatter up just to make sure Reinhardt can't get his shield up for the self-destruct. There's just really good synergy and awareness about how to use your abilities, how to save him, how to properly convert these defenses on the back end of 1 or 2 ultimates to get a full team wipe. We saw it time and time again. And that's, for me at least, Miles, what you're looking at when it comes down to the differences between someone who's ready to move to the next level and someone who's still trying to find their grips in the tier 3 scene.
Absolutely. You need to kind of get out of the solo queue mentality of, I need to make a big play, I need to be the hero right now. And while that does certainly have its advantages sometimes, there are definitely moments where you can come up with those huge hero plays and decisively turn the team fight around. But it's knowing when to go from that.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for these hero ultimates, and it's not here.
Well, we'll take a look. Katrina's been scribbling furiously throughout all of King's Row. We got to get your thoughts as you were watching that one from the backgrounds.
Oh, that was so much fun for me to watch. I mean, just listening to you guys talk about the cast as a tank main myself, seeing how much work Dunks was getting done on that Reinhardt. He had, what was it, 12 Earth Shatter kills at the end of that match?
Yeah.
Incredible. Vowels, what was Team LiViD doing to enable Dunks to charge those Earth Shatters so quickly?
Okay, I want to give a particular shout out to both Bo and Rocker. Rocker, really good Brigitte, being able to enable a lot of Dunk's aggression by following up with great shield bash combos, flailing forward with the Inspire to keep him alive. And then Bo's positioning as well on the Ana has been really crucial. Always on the off angle, staying out of harm's way, being able to land crucial biotic nades. And that's how Team LiViD have been able to enable Dunks more than we've seen from Bitpop, who is maybe the more mechanically gifted Reinhardt, I'd say.
And I hold shift. Bo wasn't actually on that Ana until I believe it was the 3rd point on that defense for Team LiViD. He was playing Zenyatta most of the time. What makes Ana such a viable hero right now in this current meta, and why do you think it took so long for Team LiViD to switch?
It's one of those things that I think when you're looking at the difference between a Zenyatta and an Ana, you're looking at 2 different things. The first one being, do you need to be playing a main support, which Ana brings, or someone who can help boost the damage, which obviously Zenyatta brings. But beyond that, you're also looking at Zenyatta being that defensive ultimate, that thing that can really help respond to any aggression coming out of your offender, as well as the Ana is more of, all right, we're going to hit the boost, we're going to go in hard, I can follow up with the biotic grenade to give us an advantage. And I think they started to realize by the time that they got through that 2nd point that, again, the Prodigy support was hitting so many of these clutch biotic grenades, which was giving Team LiViD such a hard time. Their only response was, well, if we're not going to get any Zenyatta healing off, let's just respond with a biotic grenade of our own. And they were able to do it pretty well.
I completely agree. And that Ana might be coming out as we head over to Junkertown for this next map. Vowels, we see a lot of interesting compositions on Junkertown, sometimes Bastions. What are you expecting to see come out for this next map?
I'm expecting, at the very least, a Widowmaker duel. Both these teams have indicated that they love to play the French Purple Lady. I'm going to look for... It's going to be Saturn versus Tyler on the Widowmaker duel, moving off some of the Brigitte, Zaya heroes we saw. Just something a little more exciting, something a little more headshotty, and I'm excited to see how that fares. Outside of the Widowmaker battle, there's a lot of compositions you can run though, so it's interesting to see what teams can come up with for Junkertown.
Well, I think that we're about to head out to that map. Enjoy the Australian outback for me, guys. I'll miss you, but I'll see you soon afterwards.
Oh, we miss you too. We'll keep an eye on you, Katrina. How could we not? Let's dig in though. So, Val, let's get back into it. Junkertown, again, a very interesting map, a very difficult map for a number of different reasons. You mentioned the Widow battle possibly popping off, especially on the first checkpoint. What other things are you looking for these teams that, again, we saw both teams really wanted at different times to play things like that D.Va, possibly that Winston for Team LiViD. Didn't work out for them so well. They had to force themselves back to the Rein Zarya. Are we likely going to see more of these dive frontliners this time around?
Possibly. We don't see too much dive on the first point of Junkertown in particular, but as you move through the streets and round the final bend, we do see teams often resort to dive if initial pushes with Reinhardt or Orisa-based compositions start to stall. Again, I'm not expecting too much dive initially, but we might see it later on in the map. Early on, I'm expecting both these teams to go with more the Orisa-based offenses, maybe bring out the Reinhardt if they want to. I'm more intrigued by what we're going to see at the flex support role. Towards the end of the Overwatch League Season 1, we saw teams moving towards a triple tank offense. Here, moving your Zenyatta over to the Roadhog. It's been a little while since then, and the meta has evolved, but if teams are brave enough to bring that out, I feel like that could be a really intriguing matchup.
It's one of those things that's like, it's, I won't say high risk, high reward, but there is a risk, and it will come sometimes merit a reward if you can get those early pulls with the hooks from those Roadhogs. And then beyond that, you can kind of, because he's got that self-healing, we do see teams, like you mentioned back in the day, use the Roadhog more as like, okay, he's going to play off in his own because he's got some self-sustain. We can kind of run these two more damage-enabling supports, using things like a Zenyatta possibly into it, maybe even a Mercy just for the res. And that flexibility can be there, but again, if it doesn't work for you, you can very quickly see this first checkpoint not go your way at all.
Absolutely. One of the most effective ways sometimes to shut down a double sniper composition that's abusing these sightlines and flank routes is to just send your Roadhog off on a wild adventure. Hope you can land a couple nutty hooks that your team can maybe capitalize on while he just locks down those sightlines. It'll be intriguing to see if teams do go for a double sniper offense, though, or if they mix it up a little bit.
It's just so weird on this first point as you take a look at all these wonderfully tin-lined houses and apartment complexes that I'm sure do not cost much per month to rent. But beyond that, it comes a lot down. There's not a lot of flanking routes here either is the big thing. It's a very straightforward first checkpoint. And when you take a look at a defensive setup, it's pretty linear to where you're going to be holding, which again, you mentioned those sniper battles can really change the tides. You get a 6 versus 5 and all of a sudden you're in the driver's seat for this payload.
These teen houses feel like home. It's like the quality of student accommodation I get here in Manchester. There's a lot more back alleys here in Manchester, though. You're right that it can be a little bit linear on this first point off sometimes, especially as you move towards the end of the area where you've got a wide open space with only a couple little walls for hiding spots. I think the most intriguing thing here actually is that Morbid is going to be sat on the Wrecking Ball. I would be very, very, very surprised if he actually comes out on the Wrecking Ball, but hey, mix things up, come up with something more creative. On defense, though, you know what it is. It's triple tank, triple support, bows on Diana, pretty standard.
Well, we're not going to get that dream matchup of the three, of the White Widow versus Widow. It'll just be Goats versus Goats, which it will actually be an early fight happening immediately to the left side of the spawn. Biotic grenades being traded for both teams. Dunk's looking for a charge, but will actually be pushed way up into the high ground, which will separate him very vastly from the rest of his team. Now trying to work on back to the payload. He'll get there. He'll also catch a Biotic grenade plus a couple of stim shots just to keep him healthy. So again, a lot of toggling for position. Bitbop wants to go forward as he's got himself an Earth Shatter, and he's able to help clean up one, and the two supports of the three being down for the side of, We Showed Up will be moving forward, but able to get boosted is Dunk. So again, Team LiViD moving forward and keeping their advantage on the defense.
And this is one of the earliest meta adaptations we saw in Junkenstein. It's a nice throwback. You play these really tank-heavy compositions, especially around the first point, go for a really aggressive hold. Nice early nano boost, managed to win it out for Team LiViD.
Dunk's coming down with another Earth Shatter, and then will immediately follow up with a charge on Bitbop. Ooh, that'd be slapped, and that'll be Salty once again with the triple kill, getting the self-destruct. It is looking like a nuclear bomb in the face of We Showed Up. Oh man, another successful defense. Thank you very much, Salty.
Yeah, he may be salty, but these D.Va bombs have been nothing but sweet. It's a nice follow-up on the Earth Shatter, punish some of the positioning, and hey, if you can win a teamfight with a freak Earth Shatter, you can't complain.
Nope. Why would you? I couldn't think of one thing you could complain about in that instance. Again, We Showed Up in red, Team LiViD in blue, as they did flip-flop the colors and looking for the boost at Bitbop. But near the end of that channel, it will be a Graviton Surge being pulled down. And this time, Mark Killer says, I want some of that self-destruct action, and we'll find one on the Rocker, who is not able to get himself further forward. Dunk will be denied his Earth Shatter, so no more style points for him, as it looks like finally the offense that We Showed Up has come to play.
Yeah, it's not quite the glorious 3Ks we're seeing from Salty, but Mark Killer's self-structs are serving their purpose. They zone away Team LiViD, force them all to split up, and then from that they can just punish the players one by one. They don't have each other to fall back on, and yeah, you just unravel the team composition from there.
Still plenty of time for the defense to set up, but it is getting near checkpoint. A Graviton Surge combined with a Biotic Grenade near the end of it. Dunk's looking for another Jennifer, not going to find it. Will be boosted right as the Biotic Grenade falls away, so he does get that health boost, and now moving forward for kills. He's able to find himself too. Talk about your good old-fashioned comeback. Again, the Michael Jordan themed player coming out in Game 5 with the flu and scoring 38 on the Utah Jazz. Looking solid for the defense holds.
And it's so much easier for Team LiViD when you only need to come up with a strategy for half of your fights, because the other half are just going to be, Bo has nano boost, Bo looks at Dunks, Bo presses Q, Dunks goes ham. And literally dunks on these fools. Coming up on the Earth Shadow, but Bitpop already has it. Going a little creative with this flank boot, see if they can catch Team Shift off there.
And Bitpop and Dunks will both use their shatters, finding equal amounts of success, but Salty's able to follow up again onto the support line, and now it's going to be Mark Killer looking for one of his own. It's going to trade away, but still numbers favoring the defense. It's only the 3 left. Now make that 2. Now make that 1 for the side of We Showed Up. They'll fall back to spawn and consider how they want to finish these last 30 seconds out.
Yeah, Salty landing his self-structs. It's like Adam Vinatieri making a field goal. It's just Mr. Automatic at this point. Always coming up huge. There's only one ultimate on the side of this offense now. Ultraviolet has their nano boost. Buck's going to be coming on Graviton too, but there's a lot of... Graviton's counted in part from Team LiViD as well. So Buck needs to come up huge here.
Looking at Team LiViD as far as what they can do to possibly set this one up. Graviton Surge is being traded away, and now it's going to be once again Bo with that anti-biotic grenade, turning everybody into a very lovely shade of maybe not ultraviolet, but violet itself, as they consider if this 14-year-old prodigy can mix up the Bo's level. Sound barrier for good measures over time will surely fade away, and the defense will hold before checkpoint A can be touched.
And it's pretty simple. Team LiViD just take initiative. They throw down the Graviton Surge before We Showed Up can even blink. And from there, you lose the early pick. It's a 5v6 triple tank, triple support matchup. You don't come back from those fights. Really good defense from Team LiViD, proving that they are the dominant team right now. We Showed Up, managed to get some of the way through. They did show up at the very least, nearly capped first point, so they've got a little bit of wiggle room to work with. But we need a Jacksonville style defense here. You can't leave any prisoners out on the field. You need to be dominant right now.
And I don't know about you, Vals, but I'm starting to run out of sports references for your famous 89 to 97 Chicago Bulls. I hate to say it. There's 2 things that I'm sad about. Number 1, I don't think Ultraviolet, if he goes back and watches this, will even know what we're talking about because he's 14, which makes me feel super old. Number 2, rest in peace, the Chicago Bulls.
As long as you're passionate, Olshoff, that's what counts.
You gotta have it.
Go on your old man ramblings, whatever. Here and like I alluded to earlier, it's the age over youth so far. Ultraviolet, he's the great prodigy. He's got a lot of potential as a flex support player, and he has been a bright spot for We Showed Up. But overall, Team LiViD are just looking like the stronger team right now.
Now, okay, we're about to see offense for the side of Team LiViD. Obviously, We Showed Up needs to have something big happen. They're running the 3-3. Are you okay with this, or would you rather see them switch to something a little bit more out of the ordinary to try to hold?
You don't always have to go for the Hail Mary to finish out the fight. You can just dink, dunk, check down the field, and that's what we're seeing with this 3-3 composition. It's the safe option. Play aggressively, try and win out the fights. Stop, as long as you can stop getting Bo, as long as Bo doesn't get the kind of advantage he's getting out of his fire nades like that one, maybe you stand an advantage. But Antel's going to be moving on to the junk bet early.
Oh yeah, We Showed Up trying to find a way around the backside and not expecting the junker whatsoever and trying to respond in a little bit of a frantic, chaotic mode. They will actually be able to regroup themselves very nicely on the payload with the exception of Buck, who will move back a little bit further, but Bitpop, very low, will be able to find himself a clutch shield to keep himself alive and in this fight. Now, for the side of Vivid, trying to move on forward to this payload. Again, one good team fight could spell disaster for We Showed Up, who could potentially put this series away. Bitpop has himself in an Earth Shatter. When will he pull the trigger? He will pull it down, and no shield was there, but able to respond as Dunks, and he finds 3 in the backline to get stunned. He continues to find it, but all that resulted is a trade, so 5-on-5 action. Dunks still trying to hold on to this payload, but Buck is fully charged and boosted. trying to cause havoc of their own, but not able to find as much success as I think he was hoping for damage-wise. And what that means there's going to be no Graviton surge because there's just no numbers here. You have to get out if you're the defenders. Fortunately, they will. Oh, but pulled in with the Hail Mary, speak of it in a shell of fear, and now having to respond in desperation to one of their own is we showed up, and fortunately, they will find a trade, but goodness, that was an aggressive play from Saturn, and it almost pulled off.
I mean, sometimes your Hail Mary gets intercepted. It's a really smart Graviton, you can't fault it, but the execution wasn't there. There's just too many numbers on the field for We Showed Up, and they managed to turn that around. 2 minutes now on the time bank. We Showed Up have a couple ultimates to work with. Let's see if BitBolt can come up huge with the Surf Shadow.
They have to wait for this biotic grenade to fade away. They're all turned purple up in the high ground. Now, finally, the rally here from Rocker. The Urge Never comes down, but it's immediately met by Dunks, who will try to charge Bip-Bop into self-destruction, but not so much to the same luck this time through. How about an Earth Shatter, though? Not, again, finding as many kills as you'd like to see. We're still looking at 4-on-5 action favoring the team wearing blue, and that's going to be enough for them to keep this payload and the team fight moving in their favor. Likely going to be the map win. Morbid's going to be the last one to give it a go, but he's by himself up against so many enemy bodies, and that will be enough for Team LiViD to put this one to bed. 2-0 in maps.
And Team LiViD, it's a deserved win. We Showed Up, had some great moments, but if the 2005 White Sox taught us everything, not all good moments get remembered. Sometimes your victories just get left out on the national stage, and Team LiViD, the deserved better team here, take a nice clean 2-0.
That hurts me a little bit there, Wells. We've got this tie into Chicago sports. The 2005 White Sox with Bobby Jenks, with Paul Canerco, come on. You can't hate on that. Even my boy Jermaine Dye, you can't forget about them. Again, people have no idea what we're talking about, but the banner in the back, I think, says enough with that 2005 written underneath. I'm just saying, you gotta love my White Sox, okay? No hate, Wells.
I'll tell you what I do love. I love Salty's Earth. I love Salty's self-destructs. I love Dunk Surf Shadows. I love the way Saturn and Rocker were just able to enable the rest of the team. And more than anything, I love Bo's biotic grenades. There's so many things to love about this Team LiViD roster, playing really cohesively despite the fact that they've only been together a couple weeks. They are playing like champions, and I do think they're a favorite moving through this tournament based on what we've seen so far.
Oh, I could not disagree with you at all. I think that the synergy that we saw between the double front lines that we saw with the Diva as well as the Reinhardt, but also the back end, all of the great support that came out to make some plays happen on their end of things. It just looked like a full team going up against it. Now, again, we've only seen the GOATS comp come out so far of Team LiViD. So as we move forward, I have a couple of questions as far as what that flexibility that you were talking about earlier has to say as far as their success later on in the game. But again, Katrina, we got to rest your cheekbones. We can't have so much PogChamp face coming from you when you're watching. What did you have to think about that matchup?
Oh, so much. I mean, I've been enjoying watching Team LiViD and We Showed Up play this entire match. I've also been loving all of these Chicago references. Go Cubs. But anyways, I was really interested at first seeing that GOATS, the triple tank, triple support, the GOATS composition. It was a complete mirror match. I hold shipped when you are in those mirror matches. Who do you really want to take out of that GOATS roster first? Which hero do you want to go down on the other team?
Me personally, I'm looking at that Reinhardt battle. I want to see who's getting the tilt in that kind of battle in the trenches, who can draw their line in the sand further forward than the others. But beyond that, I think when you take a look at what on a gameplay we saw, we mentioned it in between game 1 and game 2, I was really that time through looking at who got most value out of the biotic grenade, whether it was defensively to keep her team healed, but more importantly, when you do open up by getting that biotic grenade onto the opposition's frontliners, and can you convert off of that? It really did seem like a lot of the go calls were coming on the back end of biotic grenades, and it really did tilt the way in favor of Bo this time through in Team LiViD.
And speaking of We Showed Up, why Vowels, what's the logic behind going for GOATS for defense when you've just been full held while playing GOATS? What do you think about that defensive mindset?
I feel like it is the safe option. Triple Tank, Triple Support has been a really Met-defining composition for a reason. And even though you just lost with it, that doesn't mean it's not the comp to go with. It might still be your best bet. And I do think there was definitely a lot of potential for We Showed Up. They need to just tighten the bolts a little bit, have a little bit more cohesive gameplay. In particular, I'd like to see them maybe focus more on an identity. Sometimes they were trying to enable Bitbop to go huge on the Reinhardt, set up huge Earth Shadows, swing forward, and get all the damage out that way. Sometimes they were instead favoring Buck, trying to ramp up Desire Charge, but they were never decisive enough to favor one over the other. And I feel like if you're going to be a successive 3-3 team, you need to pick one or the other. I think they maybe had more success when they were favoring Buck, who was a really, really good Zarya. But either way, you need to make a decision.
And I hold shift. Speaking of just having so much momentum, being a champion here, Team LiViD has now gotten their first victory in this tournament. What do they need to do to continue this trend?
Number one, you continue to play GOATs as fluently and as successfully as you have, you'll find success. But the biggest thing is if teams start to pick up that, okay, LiViD's going to play a very successful GOATs, can we take them to a map that GOATs is not as successful on? And can LiViD adjust? Again, we had mentioned that we were potentially going to see Widow versus Widow in the first point there in Junkertown. It would have been nice to kind of see the flexibility on the more traditional DPS for LiViD. We didn't get a chance to see much more besides the McCree. So I want to see how well they can play things like Genji, Doomfist, Sombra, these big kind of flex flank picks that could potentially open up the map more in their favored positioning wise when the maps are more vertical as well as wide.
And that Reinhardt v Reinhardt battle was definitely at the center of these triple tank, triple support battles. Vals, we're both main tank players, and you have bested me a couple of times on that Reinhardt. What makes Team LiViD's Reinhardt able to win these duels?
You can't be a successful main tank player without a team around you in the current meta. It's just not feasible. Gone are the days of the Fishers and Gulshues of the world. While they still have their moments, you need to have a more cohesive team. You can't just hard carry on the main tank anymore. And again, that's what it came down to. Team LiViD just looked like the better team across the board and were able to enable dunks on the main tank to pop off.
And I am so excited, even though I am sad to say goodbye to you two. It's been so fun sharing this imaginary desk with both of you, but it is time to end our first match up. Thank you so much to We Showed Up and to Team LiViD for allowing us to cast and host you. It's been incredible. For those of you who are watching at home, the next match will be at 9:15 Eastern time, and I'll see you there.